Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, distinguished guests. I would like to welcome you this afternoon to this amazing event that we are holding today for a subject that concerns all of us. And I am thrilled and very proud to have such distinguished speakers amongst us. We are here to hopefully pull together to be able to make a difference around the world to preserve our heritage and identity. I would like first to thank the Holy See Ambassador, Bernardito Auza, who has been very vigilant in promoting peace and promoting the word of the Vatican at the United Nations and everywhere in the world. I have been having the privilege in working with him more than one time, and I consider him to be a friend. My relationship with the Vatican has been for many years, and I have worked with them closely, and we have done interfaith dialogue together a few years ago. And I also very grateful to the Pope, who really cares about preserving identity and culture. Hence, we have this wonderful event, and I thank him for co-sponsoring our event. Of course, I have to say a big thank you, and proud to announce the new addition to our organization, International Federation for Peace and Sustainable Development, that we are very proud in adding an amazing person, human being who has known, his work is known all over the world. He is a flamboyant personality, you agree with me. And he had made everybody care about antiquity because of him and the way he is passionate about it. And this is Dr. Zahi Hawass, who recently we have appointed him to working together with us as our ambassador for cultural heritage. We have also a representative from a very important part of the United Nations, that is UNESCO. UNESCO have spearheaded many things, especially on the preservation of archaeological sites and antiquities. And Ms. Irena Bokova, who has spearheaded things many years now. And I have all the data that I can read for you, but I will save you that much time. But you should be all aware that she has been very active in preserving heritage and archaeological sites. Ms. Lily, who will be representing the UNESCO. Another very welcome guest of ours is a person that is, I can call now a new friend. And you would say, why is she here? This is a queen from Nigeria. Nigeria is a vast, large country and very prominent and have many, like what we have here, different states. And her husband heads one of the largest states there. And she was telling me, you know, we also have many problems in Nigeria. They have taken our heritage and our background and so on, and through looting and theft. And I would really be very grateful to speak in this event, since it is very important to us. So I thought that would be amazing, because that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. Our heritage, our background, the archaeological heritage is all over the world. We have to preserve it. Even though this subject is now on the Middle East or some of the countries that we are focusing on, that is also so important because it's part of our heritage. to the thrill of my life, that was on the 24th of this month of March, there was a new resolution that came about at the Security Council. And it was signed and it's been spearheaded by France and Italy. The Italian ambassador will be joining us for a few minutes because he has other engagement. But when they finished and voted, I was walking here somewhere at the UN, and the ambassador and his wife ran to find me, to tell me, we passed the resolution. This is the resolution we just passed. And after this, they all met the end of March, and the 7 countries that signed also. And it's a lengthy statement that I will probably share with you later. But not only it is essential to stop this and stop the destruction, it is essential to implement a punishment, which we didn't have before. Another very prominent person who is dear to our heart, he sits on our board, the International Federation for Peace and Sustainable Development. He is a judge on the International Criminal Court. And he said to me, you know that the first time that the International Court have judged someone who had done the destruction in Timbuktu, and they put him in jail the first time. So now, not only we have the knowledge that we shouldn't, not only we want to promote people to preserve, but if you don't, we can punish you. And this is what we are here to do. And we have a program with Dr. Zahi and our organization that had set forth, and we will try to implement, as the European also have a different program, but goes hand in hand together. So now permit me, with all my honor, to present to you our first speaker, Ambassador Bernardito Auza. Please give him a hand.
Your Excellencies, distinguished panelists, dear ladies and gentlemen, I am very happy to welcome you to this event on the very important and relevant topic of protecting endangered cultural heritage in times of conflict. Last November in the Vatican, in anticipation of the International Conference on the Protection of Cultural Patrimony in Conflict Zones that took place December 2nd and 3rd in Abu Dhabi, Pope Francis said that today's subject is unfortunately dramatically current. He underlined that the protection of cultural treasures constitutes an essential dimension in the defense of human beings, and emphasized that guarding cultural heritage is a crucial new step in the process of the implementation of human rights. So these are the 3 elements I would like to develop. I would like to structure what I would like to share to you this afternoon on these 3 points. The first is that this endangered cultural patrimony, this theme is very current. The second, this is part of our defense of human rights. And the third, the right of peoples to their patrimony, to their history, to their heritage. So first, the need to protect cultural patrimony is dramatically current. In recent years, we have seen the destruction and the desecration of sanctuaries in Mosul, Palmyra, Tikrit, Timbuktu, Bamiyan, and so many other places. We have seen libraries and archives destroyed and ancient pieces trafficked, precious manuscripts burned, scientific collections razed, priceless artifacts ransacked, mosques, churches, ancient monasteries, and archaeological and cultural sites leveled to the ground. Architectural, artistic, and historic monuments bulldozed or blown up, or sold to traffickers of historical, artistic, and cultural patrimony. It's been part of a coordinated strategy, and that is to destroy, for propaganda purposes, famous monuments, sculptures, temples that could not be sold in the black market as an international spectacle, to demoralize opponents and recruit new members. While at the same time, those atrocities provide a smokescreen, a cover, to plunder and sell smaller, less conspicuous antiquities to raise money to fuel acts of terrorism, as well as to sell those monuments which were destroyed, but which remain very precious in the eyes of traffickers and those collectors who are willing to buy them. I will say that while Al-Qaeda has depended on the support of rich benefactors to fuel its activities, ISIL has plundered, kidnapped, and extorted its way to wealth, and the industrial plundering of antiquities has become a key part of its economic strategy, with its so-called Ministry of Antiquities, even licensing looting excavators, taxing them 20 to 50%, and facilitating for them a trafficking network in the black market with elements of organized crime across the globe. So it's a deliberate, systematic war strategy, what UNESCO has aptly called cultural cleansing, and what the UN General Assembly has said is tantamount to war crime under international law. That it is happening in the Middle East, which is so central to the history of civilization and of religion, makes it all the more repulsive, all the more sadder. Recent studies have noted that after oil, it is ISIL's second most lucrative financing scheme, estimated at billions of dollars a year, fueling more terrorism and more cultural destruction. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation says that antiquities crimes has become one of the top 5 global crimes. So what we are dealing with is indeed dramatically current. That is the first point. It is happening under our noses. Second, Pope Francis stressed that the protection of cultural treasures is an essential dimension in the defense of the human person. It's an attempt on the part of terrorists to erase history, to deprive people of their roots and identity, to strike at their past, their future, and their hope. It is an attack not only on things, however precious they are, but on the people, people of the past, people of the present, and people of the future who all value them. It is an assault, therefore, on the cultural, educational, and religious environment they need for their integral development. When Pope Francis came to the United Nations General Assembly on September 25, 2015, he spoke of this human dimension when he alluded to the painful situation of the entire Middle East, North Africa, and other African countries, where Christians, together with other cultural or ethnic groups and members of the majority religion, have been forced to witness the destruction of their places of worship, their cultural and religious heritage, their houses, and their property. Cultural property is one of the basic elements of civilization, making the willful annihilation of precious cultural treasures almost genocidal in motivation. Destroying people's historical rootedness is geared at eradicating an essential part of their humanity. And that's why what we are confronting is far more than cultural matter. It's a crime against humanity through the systematic impoverishment of the cultural heritage of the world. For me, the attack on humanity through the systematic destruction or marketeering of cultural heritage was illustrated in all its barbarity in what happened to Khalid al-Assad, the leading Syrian archaeologist and historian, who had spent his life preserving Palmyra's cultural treasures. And at 82 years old, ISIL tortured him for a month, to try to get him to divulge the location of hidden sites and objects before decapitating him and stringing him upside down to appall the whole world. The attack on the sacredness of the human being and the desecration of what he holds dear go together. Destroying culture and the ones who value that culture are part of the same desacralizing and dehumanizing sadism. This realization has to elicit a determined response in all sectors. Perhaps at one time the purchase of stolen antiquities could be rationalized, especially for those who bought them, as a victimless crime or even a virtuous act, ensuring that priceless artifacts are redeemed and preserved. But we now know that the purchase of such blood antiquities is fueling terrorist acts throughout the globe and enabling further such desecration of cultural and artistic patrimony. That brings me to the third point that Pope Francis underlined, and that is guarding cultural heritage must be treated as a crucial new step in the protection of human rights. There have long been principles for the protection of cultural property during armed conflict, going back to the Conventions of The Hague in 1899 and the 1907, supplemented by the 1954 and the 1999 protocols, which likewise require the protection of human life. But it is clear that ISIL does not abide by such principles of basic humanity. Thankfully, we should say, the United Nations has gotten involved in a concerted way lately. We know that the Security Council, in multiple resolutions over the past 2 years, most notably 2199, 2249, 2253, 2322, and most recently 2347, adopted last month, has explicitly condemned ISIL's destruction of cultural heritage sites in Syria and Iraq and its profiteering from cultural treasures, has put mechanisms in place to prohibit the trade of cultural property, to finance terrorism, and has urged states to bolster cooperation to prevent and combat the trafficking of blood antiquities. We know also that the General Assembly has deplored attacks on religious places, shrines, and cultural sites as violations of human rights and international humanitarian law, and has said that such intentional desecrations to buildings dedicated to religion, education, art, or historic monuments may amount to war crimes. That is indeed a welcome development. The International Criminal Court, as we know, as Salim mentioned, in 2016, obtained its first ever conviction for cultural destruction, sentencing Ahmad al-Faku al-Mahdi of the Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group Ansar Dine to 9 years in prison for destroying the ancient cultural sites of Timbuktu. And there are so many other examples. UNESCO, Interpol, the UN Office on Drugs and Crimes, all these have moved together in a coordinated way in order to stop this destruction of cultural patrimony. At the same time, however, as in many cases, there is still so much need. There is still much need to be done in order to effectively stop the trafficking, to stop effectively the destruction. There's a need to move beyond words, we say to move beyond resolutions. Security Council Resolution 2253, adopted unanimously last December, itself expressed increasing concern about the lack of implementation of the other resolutions previous to that, including the insufficient level of reporting by member states to the committee and the measures they have taken to comply with its provisions, and about the failure of member states to take the necessary measures to fulfill their obligation under paragraph 12 of Resolution 2199, and that is to report to the committee of all the measures they have adopted in order to protect antiquities. It is clear, therefore, friends, that by such an evaluation, there is much to be done to protect the human rights of people to their cultural heritage. Indeed, the protection of cultural patrimony in conflict zones is, as Pope Francis said on November 30, an unfortunately dramatically current issue. It is a war not just against irreplaceable treasures, but against those who treasure them, have treasured them, and are meant to treasure them in future generations. Just as there is a responsibility to protect people from atrocity crimes, I believe that there is a duty also, a responsibility to defend the cultural dimension of persons and civilizations from the desecration now taking place, and to promote and protect the human rights of people to their history, to their identity, to their environment, to their places of learning, worship, inspiration, and more. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that today's event will inspire us and move us to do all we can to respond to this dramatically current issue, current challenge, current problem of the destruction of our cultural patrimony. Thank you very much.
Ambassador. Now you can see that big forces, with all of us together, and the big forces of the Vatican are all here to maintain and to be able to sustain whatever cultural left that is not destroyed to stay intact. It is now my privilege again to introduce an amazing young lady who has been working with representing UNESCO's office at the United Nations here, Miss Lily Gray. And you have all of the bios in the brochure. And I would like to please give her a warm welcome to Miss Lily Gray from UNESCO office.
Excellencies, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start my brief intervention on behalf of UNESCO by commending Sally and the International Federation for Peace and Sustainable Development, as well as Ambassador Bernardito Auza, for organizing this very timely event on this a serious issue. In the words of Pope Francis, I would like to borrow, that is unfortunately dramatically current today. As we witness the growing momentum with the adoption of latest historical Security Council resolutions 2199 and 2347, we believe that meetings such as today's could be very productive in terms of recommendations, in terms of concrete proposals, as platform for further connecting areas that have been separated for so long. Areas, as Ambassador Auza mentioned, such as the protection of cultural heritage and the protection of human life, the protection of cultural diversity and human rights, which are intrinsically linked but somehow have been separated so far. Security issues, cultural issues, humanitarian issues that are so deeply intertwined in modern conflicts should also be considered jointly when we discuss destruction of cultural heritage. And UNESCO is very clear that none of this can be treated in isolation, and that sustainable responses can only come from joint actions and new partnerships. The protection of cultural heritage is not just a cultural issue, but a security imperative, as the Director General of UNESCO stressed during her intervention at the adoption of the Security Council Resolution 2347 last month. Over the past years, cultural heritage has unfortunately been on the front line of conflicts in the Middle East, in Northern Africa, in Yemen, in Mali. This is not a novelty, as we have seen that also in Afghanistan, in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and of course during the Second World War. However, today it happens in such a scale, with such a speed, and is displayed globally through social media as a tactic of communication and intimidation used by warlords, that it calls for all of us to drastically update and upgrade our response. The adoption of the Security Council Resolutions 2199 and the last one, 2347, coincided with the strengthening of UNESCO's work over the last few years in strong cooperation with member states, with Interpol, UNODC, and other relevant stakeholders. In this context, we have launched a network of more than 50 member states that have improved their legislation and are sharing data in an effort to counter the illicit trafficking of cultural property coming from conflict zones. That said, we do consider that today's meeting could greatly contribute to raising awareness about the importance of heritage. You probably are all aware that this has not been always easy. People involved in raising awareness about the importance of safeguarding our cultural heritage can recall that just a few years ago, the destruction of heritage was viewed as something secondary, that we should not indeed speak about when human lives are taken away. No one is making the same mistake again, and this has been put on top of the political agenda through the respective Security Council resolutions, but also, unfortunately, as a key dimension of the ideology of hatred, and also as a key aspect of the United Nations response to cultural cleansing. With partners, UNESCO has launched a network of professionals to respond to illicit trafficking with a much stronger cooperation, and we appeal once more to a greater information sharing to fully implement the UN Security Council Resolutions 2199 and 2347. We have reached out to the art market to strengthen ties and adopt a code of ethics. We have worked to fully implement the notion that deliberate destruction of cultural heritage is a war crime and should be punished as such. And I'm very glad to join the comments of the previous distinguished speakers in highlighting the issue of impunity for cultural heritage destruction perpetrators. In that sense, we have cooperated with the International Criminal Court in the trail of the destruction of the mausoleums in Timbuktu, as this collaboration has led to the conviction of the individual responsible for the destruction of the mausoleums. And today we see standing again. UNESCO has supported, with the support of the European Union and the people of Mali, has rebuilt the mausoleums in Timbuktu, and through this exercise we could testify for the power of culture to reconcile, to give hope, to give strength, to look into the future. Let me also mention that in pursuing a global strategy that builds on a clear vision, UNESCO fully assumes its responsibility to coordinate international action. As custodian of international law on cultural heritage, we are crafting common policies and standards to support implementation of the 1954 Convention on the Protection of Cultural Property in the event of armed conflict, the 1970 Convention Against Trafficking of Cultural Property, and the 1972 World Heritage Convention. As mentioned by our Director General last month, as soon as the fighting system in Palmyra, in Aleppo, Nimrud, and Ashur, UNESCO dispatched emergency missions, and we have taken preliminary measures to secure sites and prevent further damage. In all this, UNESCO message is clear. Culture is at the heart of the conflicts, of the new conflicts, and it must be at the heart of our strategy for peace. Local communities know this, and they are the real custodians of heritage. They give their life to protect it because they care about it as their own lives, and so should we. This is the most powerful response we can give to extremists around the world seeking to destroy cultural diversity pretending that cultural diversity is a weakness. They attack heritage, schools, journalists. They persecute people on religious and cultural ground in a same global strategy of cultural cleansing. And UNESCO's response is as integrated as their attack, and we invite everyone to combine heritage protection, education for human rights, safety of journalists, all tools of soft power to foster critical thinking and freedom of thought as ultimate defense against radicalization. This is also the spirit of the Unite for Heritage campaign that was launched in 2015 in Baghdad. And I'm happy also to see Deborah Lea from the Antiquities Foundation, who has been playing a major, who is supporting this Unite for Heritage campaign. Indeed, it's a global movement that aims to safeguard natural and cultural heritage and celebrate cultural diversity around the world. And it was launched in response to the unprecedented attacks on heritage. So, all of you, please look for ways how you could join and indeed support this Unite for Heritage campaign. I'll be happy to engage and respond if you have more questions around that. But UNESCO is indeed expanding this movement for 2017-2018 on a global level and reinforcing the digital impact while developing events and partnership-based visibility around the Unite for Heritage campaign. I thank you for your attention, and I'm confident that today's discussions indeed will lead to a renewed commitment around this issue. Thank you. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you very much. Now I would really be honored also to present to you Her Majesty, Queen of Ife in Nigeria, and her name is Urulwala Zainab. Okay. Otiti Ogunusi, forgive me, but here she is with all of her graciousness and beauty. Please talk to us. Give her a big clap.
Your Excellencies, Your Royal Highnesses, and all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly honored to be sitting in front of such an assembly of august and accomplished people. Firstly, I would like to thank Mrs. Sawa Kadir for putting this event together and for inviting me to speak on a subject matter that is very dear to my heart. Sally, as she's popularly known, is a woman of strong character with an impeccable knowledge of a number of issues vis-a-vis challenges that affect us all as human beings. The endangerment of indigenous heritage and culture has long been happening, but I could never have imagined that we will one day have a forum that focuses on discussing the way forward, in finding a more constructive way to go about salvaging what is left and building upon what still exists, while radically working towards putting an end to war and conflict. My name is Queen Wura Olaotiti Zainab Ogunwusi, and I am the wife of His Imperial Majesty Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, the current ruler of the ancient Ile-Ife Kingdom and the custodian of the culture, tradition, and customs of the Yoruba-speaking people of Nigeria in West Africa. One of the most interesting and trending topics about my native country, Nigeria, is the issue of the artifacts and artworks that were stolen from the ancient Ife and Benin kingdoms during the period we were colonized by the British. Most of these rare and irreplaceable stolen artifacts are still gracing the museums all over the world today, and including private collections all over the world. These artifacts were not only stolen, but the inhabitants of the various colonized kingdoms were also stripped of their identities. History and heritage, today I stand before you as a unique and direct descendant of both the ancient kingdoms, Ile-Ife and Benin. I am Benin by birth and Yoruba by marriage to His Imperial Majesty the Ooni of Ife. It is most important to point out that the modern kingdoms of Benin and Ile-Ife were established by descendants of same lineage. My ancestors fought to keep in safe custody these rare artifacts and also to ensure that most of the stolen artifacts are returned to their original owners, not just because of the craftsmanship that went into making them, but also because of their spiritual and religious significance and their importance to the customs and traditions of the inhabitants of the two great kingdoms that were forcibly stolen from. It is imperative that we take the baton and carry on from where our ancestors left off when they passed on to the other plane of consciousness. As the mantle now rests upon the living to do what is right, I sincerely ask that we all find ways to come together regardless of where we come from. War is not beautiful. The aftermath of every conflict is the pain it leaves in its wake. In 1897, there was an invasion of the Kingdom of Benin, and while the king was dethroned by the British imperialists, important artifacts were looted and taken away. The destruction of the ancient city of Benin during that punitive expedition was also of great loss for African technology and architectural history. The image of one of the most important stolen artifacts was used to highlight the Festival of Black Arts and Culture, which held in Nigeria in 1977 and popularly called the Festac. Also, the Yoruba Kingdom of Ile-Ife suffered a huge and irreplaceable loss when the world-acclaimed carving known as Ori Olokun. The Ori Olokun is the head that depicts the Ooni of Ife, and Olokun is the architect behind it, and that's why it's called Ori Olokun, which is the goddess that bestows wealth and fosters trade and commerce. This was stolen and sadly is now on display in a museum in England, where its true essence cannot and will never be properly appreciated. So many other artifacts like Olurogbo's stool and Obalufon head were also stolen from the Kingdom of Ife. These artifacts, all relative and very important to the heritage and culture of the people of these two kingdoms, were taken away. These artifacts are not only arts for beautification, but they are a symbol of culture and identity of the people. They hold strong spiritual meaning and implication, and to these people, they are significant. They are now like a woman whose child has been forcibly stolen. These people will never be the same so long as their identities are being commercialized in various museums across the world. They will continue to feel used, raped, and abused. Today, I stand before you to restate that regardless of our nomenclature as Africans, Arabs, Caucasians, Asians, and Hispanics, we are all on earth as sojourners. We are all on earth for the same major purpose, to live and leave lasting legacies, hopefully of peace and progress, and we are all part of everything and part of nothing. If we continue to allow greed, ignorance, and war consume these great symbols, our historical and cultural heritage, when we watch our neighbors get hurt, we should also feel hurt. Empathy, a fundamental part of the humanity that should exist in all of us. When we stand aloof watching a powerful nation terrorize and vandalize less powerful neighboring nations, the effect of the ruins should tug at our hearts. Together we can all ensure that peace reigns, and we should put in a place communal living that transcends all differences. Together we can make the world a better place for all. We are so much more alike than we are different. We should never forget that. I thank the International Federation for Peace and Sustainable Development and all those who have supported this event for this initiative and ensuring that it came to light. I didn't think I would be able to make it because of unexpected circumstances, but I'm so glad that I was able to. Africa, no doubt, has suffered more damage and vandalization, and on this note, I would like to use this medium to announce my support for the campaign and call for all stolen artifacts from Africa to be returned back to their original owners. It is a tough struggle, but it is also a huge part of the things we must all do to restore back the lost identity of our people. Again, I honor the presence of everyone here today, and I also appreciate you for allowing me the privilege to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Queen, very much. You enlightened us with knowledge that most of us do not know enough of. We also were having a wonderful plus to us, and she is still in the airport on her way here, the ambassadress from Venezuela. So we will miss her, but her spirit is with us. And now I would like to present an amazing person, very accomplished. Allow me to introduce Dr. Farouk Elbaz. He's an Egyptian American space scientist who worked with NASA to assist in the planning of the scientific exploration of the moon, including the selection of landing sites for the Apollo mission and the training of astronauts in the lunar observation and photography. Currently, Elbaz is a research professor and the director of the Center for Remote Sensing of the Boston University in Boston, Massachusetts. He's an adjunct professor of geology at the Faculty of Science, Ain Shams University in Cairo, Egypt. He is also a member of the board of the Trustee of Geological Society of the American Foundation, Boulder, Colorado, a member of the board of director of CRDF Global, and a member of the U.S. National Academy of Engineering in Washington, D.C. Please welcome him with me.
Thank you very much, Salwa, and hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be here with you because it is a celebration of a wonderful thing. First of all, we're indebted to His Eminence Paul Francis for his vision, imagination, and because of what he has done to entice us all to respect natural heritage sites, and by emphasizing that the natural heritage sites are part of the human history. These sites are part of the roots of mankind. If the roots are no longer there, the tree cannot live. So our life is like a tree with the roots, which are the heritage sites. And if you cut up these roots, the tree can no longer be alive. So this protection of natural heritage sites and the emphasis on the protection of natural heritage sites is a wonderful thing. And to have come from papacy, this is a great vision and imagination, and it's something that we should all admire and continue to do alike. And I'm delighted that the UNESCO has sent a representative here, a wonderful lady, because I think that the UNESCO should commit our guest of honor to go around the world to talk about heritage sites, not just and the roots here, right here, in places like this in the United Nations and in fancy universities, but to people everywhere, because he is capable of conveying the excitement of what the heritage sites mean and what they're wonderful things that they do for us in life as we think about them today. And he has the courage, the imagination, and also the energy to speak forever. And therefore, I think that UNESCO should have him commit to an international lecture tour to all kinds of little villages and towns and so on, to make sure that the people that do not know about the United Nations or UNESCO and so on get to see what wonderful things that the UN and the United Nations and the UNESCO are doing for the protection of heritage sites, because he can convey the meaning of heritage sites to all. And he is somebody who has covered and extensively, because he is a scientist, he is well-trained, he is well-spoken, and put together, kind of. When I was in Boston with the family right now, and I was telling them that I have to leave the family, they came to visit us for a few days, and I said, I'm going to have to leave because I have to go to New York. For what? My granddaughter said, well, a friend of mine is being awarded something, and they would like to be there. And he said, who is that? You leave us to go to him. Who is that? I said, his name is Zah. She said, the pyramids man. I said, yes. She said, yes. Then you can go. I'll tell him it's okay. So it is wonderful to have Zahi with us here, and it is because of his ability and his depth of knowledge and his scientific approach to things and his knowledge of what the meaning of heritage sites are. I will not take any more of your time so that we can all benefit from his wisdom. Dr. Zahi Hawass, thank you.
Now, I think most of us, before coming here, know about Zahi Hawass. I keep telling people, the person with like Indiana Jones. Oh, yeah, I know him. He's on every television, and he made us really love archaeology. I am also very much in love with archaeology, and that's why I have all the respect for him. And I am honored to tell you a little bit, because if I can tell you all of his accomplishments, it takes me a couple of hours. So to introduce you to him, Dr. Zahi Hawass, he's a world-renowned archaeologist, has served at most of the archaeological sites in Egypt during his career. He began as an inspector of antiquity. He rose to the height of profession in Egypt, the highest, becoming a Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, as well as the first Minister of State of Antiquities. He has MA and PhD were granted by the University of Pennsylvania, where he studied as a Fulbright Fellow. Additionally, Dr. Hawass has received 5 honorary doctorates from various foreign universities. He has written more than 40 popular and academic books, more than 150 scholarly articles on all of his excavation, as well as several pieces in Arabic and English newspapers and magazines. Dr. Zahi Hawass' more important endeavor has been the Egyptian Mummy Project, which uses modern forensic techniques, including CAT scans and DNA analysis, to answer questions about human remains from ancient Egypt. The EMP has resulted in several crucial findings, including the identification of the mummy of Queen Hatshepsut, and Dr. Hawass.
Had the chicken soup.
Had the chicken soup. And I'm not saying the name of your friend. So he has the National Geographic Society selected Dr. Hawass as one of explorers in residence, and the Russian Academy of Natural Science granted him a silver medal and a membership of the Academy during November of the next following year. His name was inscribed on a CD carried by the 2003 mission to Mars exploration rover. Time magazine chose him as one of the top 100 most influential people for 26. See, my husband is a big fan. The following year, he was made an officer in the French Order of Arts and Letters. And 2008, he received the rank of a commander in as a commander for the French. So with all of this back history and more, and I'm thrilled and honored to have him be part of our organization here at the United Nations, and would like to have you all hear him and see his presentation. Please give him a big hand.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank Sally for really making this beautiful reception and meeting all of you, and thanks to all my friends coming to this event tonight. I'm sorry also that I could not come last March because I had a broken leg, and many people ask me all the time, what happened to you? I never said the truth, but I'm going to tell you what happened to me. I was chasing a mummy, and the mummy she did not like me, and she hit me in the face. I fell in the ground, and I broke my ankle. Then it is the fault of the mummy. It's not my fault. Actually, this quick talk, I will introduce first Egypt. What we did for conservation, site management, and discoveries, to tell you that we are capable in really helping in saving the monuments of the 4 countries that I will introduce after the first lecture. But first of all, we can see how...
You wanted to start?
Yes. Can we start? The slides?
With the video.
No, let me start from the beginning. This is just a map to... This is not working? It's working?
Yeah.
Okay. This is just a map to introduce the sites in Egypt. But first of all, we did something called site management. What site management is actually to protect the sites. Most of the sites in Egypt were in a very critical condition. For example, we have the temple of Dandara, which is the temple of the goddess Hathor, goddess of beauty and love. And we introduced the site for the first time, making access to the tourists and having visitor center and making the National Geographic to make a film to introduce the sites. And also the major important is conservation. Because look at how the black spots was covering all the scenes and how we showed the scenes after conservation. Temple of Komombo, that was worshipped for the Sobek, the crocodile. You can see how we changed the site and we made a first museum actually for crocodiles, showing the crocodiles as if they are jumping on the Nile. Looking also at Jewish synagogues. We have 10 synagogues in Egypt, 9 in Cairo, 1 in Alexandria. But this Musa ibn Maymun synagogue is very important to the heart of the Jews. And that's really what I restored. That's how it looked like first, and how we changed this synagogue to be beautifully, and really also the other hanging in church for the Christians, for Coptic. This is the condition of the church, and now after conservation and restoration, then how it looks like now. Also, Islamic monuments. El Muazzez Street. That is a street how it looked before. We changed that street to be beautiful, restoring 36 monuments. And also in the same time, changing this Sabil Muhammad Ali to be a textile museum, the only textile museum in Egypt. And now building museums. The Grand Museum, that's going to be the largest cultural project in the world, and was built in the shadow of the pyramids. This museum will really show the treasures of Egypt. And that's the construction now of the museum is almost finished. And we built with the venue of money that came from the exhibits of King Tut, we were able to build the conservation rooms and the storage area. And that's really the other museum is the Civilization Museum that tells the history of Egypt from A to Z. And that is really is in old Cairo. It will tell the history of Egypt. We were planning to open this museum with the Grand Museum in 2015, but because of the revolution, we could not really open it. And we hope in 2 years, these 2 museums will be open to the public. Now comes to excavations and discoveries. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. First of all, if you look at the area of the pyramids, and how is actually the Great Pyramid that people want to reveal the secret of this pyramid. The first project that I did was really looking at this hole, 20 by 20 centimeter, located inside the Queen Chamber and the King Chamber. We want to reveal the secrets of this pyramid. We sent a robot. It was first a German robot, and we sent it through the northern channel, and we found this door with two copper handles. And really, if you think about who now became explorer to the National Geographic, Terry Garcia, who was us, really helped us to have another robot with Rick Allen also that he's with us tonight. And they brought this pyramid rover, and I sent it to the Great Pyramid to reveal the secret of the pyramid. And we opened that hole, and we sent an optic camera. Behind that door, we found a second door. Now, we have two doors in the pyramids, and also with two copper handles. Why it has copper handles? If you go to the Cairo Museum, you'll find the canopic jars of Tutankhamun. It has two copper handles like this to pull them back. After that, we sent the robot in the northern channel. It was bending north and south to avoid the Grand Gallery. But we found a third door inside the Great Pyramid. Now we are working with a team from England to reveal the secrets of this pyramid. I really do believe that the burial chamber of the king is still inside the Great Pyramid. And that is the project that we are going to hold, sending another robot. It's an English robot designed by a guy from Hong Kong. And this is a team that we hope by 2017 to reveal the secret of the pyramid for the first time. And also looking at the Sphinx. This is the mystery of the Sphinx, that many people think that people came from Mars and they built the Sphinx and the pyramid. And when they called me, I told them the only thing that they know about Mars is what Farouk El-Baz came to see me once, and he gave me, my name is on Mars. It's only my name, but Mars, they did not really build pyramids. But people look at the mystery of the Sphinx, seeing the Sphinx laying upon a temple. They think there is something hidden underneath. I really tried to reveal the mystery of this Sphinx. We drilled underneath. We recorded the Sphinx with laser scanning, and after that we began to think about what the Sphinx could hide. We found this tunnel inside the Great Pyramid that a man told me about this tunnel, and he said that everyone who entered in this tunnel, there is always a curse happened to him. And I told him, don't worry about the curse. We opened that tunnel and we entered inside. But you see, I was smart. I sent an American friend of mine before me, and he got actually the curse. Now, when President Clinton came and I told him this story, he smiled and he said he had many curses in his life. And actually, but looking at the mystery of the Sphinx, we did 32 drilling underneath the Sphinx. The reason not to look for people who built the Sphinx, but also only to look for the level of the water table. Then we sent 32 around the Sphinx, go down for 60 feet, and look, you have photos. The Sphinx is a solid rock and living rock, and nothing is hidden underneath. If you look at the important discovery that we made, the tombs of the pyramid builders, that tell the whole world that the pyramids were built by Egyptians and they were not built by slaves, because they were buried near the pyramid. All the skeleton of men and women had a stress on their back. They were involving moving heavy stuff. And this is a type of people grinding a grain. Look how archaeology is so fun. When you look at a tomb, work for 1 month, and after that you see an eye of a statue. If you remove the mud brick, you can see the statue is clear. If you take this block, you will have 4 statues showing the workmen who built the pyramids. And even working near my tombs, Mark Lehner found the bakery for making bread. National Geographic made a reconstruction of an ancient bakery, showing the type of bread that the workmen ate, and also how the workmen slept in summer, and how the workmen slept in winter. 10,000 workmen were involved in the construction of the pyramid, going to the Valley of the Kings, and actually showing all these hidden tombs. 64 tombs were found in the valley. But actually, all the tombs were covered with scenes showing how the king will go through this adventure until he can meet Osiris in the afterlife. And, you know, what is the first word that all of us will hear when you go to the Valley of the Kings? It is the word when Lord Carnarvon asked Howard Carter, what do you see? He said, wonderful things, wonderful things. Something like this happened to me in my career. When I found the tombs of the Valley of the Golden Mummies at Bahriya Oasis, I found mummies were covered with gold. But underneath the houses of the town, we found hidden tombs. But the problem that the houses did not have a sewage system. Then it was really difficult to excavate under the houses and smell the sewage. But we came through a major discovery. I looked at this great sarcophagus, and my friend or my assistant asked me the same question that Lord Carnarvon asked. He said, what do you see? I was smelling the sewage. I said, shit. Now, can you believe that Howard Carter is not the one who found the tomb of Tutankhamun? What happened? There was a boy in the age of 12. His name is Hussein. He was bringing the water for the workmen to drink. One day he was bringing the water on a jar above a donkey. He put it in the ground. He dug. He found the entrance of the tomb. And he ran to Howard Carter to tell him about that. Howard Carter rewarded him by putting a necklace from the tomb on his chest. This person never worked in his life. He always was holding this photograph in front of the Valley of the Kings and asked the tourists for money until he became on the age of 80. He died, and his son is doing the same today. Now, actually, this is the necklace that put it in his chest, the Valley of the Kings. Still tombs were not found yet. Tomb of Amenhotep I, Thutmose II, Ramses VIII. I'm leading now a team of scientists, but first of all, we want to protect the valley by making a replica of the tomb of Tutankhamun. And this is actually a laser scanning replica that we believe there is something hidden behind this tomb. Maybe they think that this is the tomb of Nefertiti. But actually, they thought about two rooms. I really don't think that the tomb of Nefertiti is here. Maybe there is something else. But why I do believe that? If you look at the Japanese radar, I took this to Glenn Dale, an American scientist who worked with me. He said, this doesn't show anything behind the tomb. If there is something, it should look like this. Next month, we hope that will reveal what is hidden behind this north door. But I'm leading now this team from Turin University using a new techniques. It takes photographs of under the ground. It makes a 3D map of the whole Valley of the Kings. I'm looking for the tomb of Ankh-Es in Amun, that I believe it is in this area, because I found four foundation deposits. Foundation deposits, they do it after they construct a tomb. Actually, I was looking today at the recent survey that we did last week, and it shows there is something important is hidden in this area, exactly beside these stairs, and we hope that will reveal the secret of the tomb of Ankh-Es in Amun, the widow of Tutankhamun, in this place this coming May. Also, what I'm proud is the training of these young people in the excavation techniques who really can help me in preserving the monuments of the last town, of the countries that I will talk about. But finally, this is the most important work that we're working now to search for the tomb of Cleopatra and Mark Antony. The theory is because of Kathleen Martinez from the Dominican Republic. We have been working with her for the last 6 years. We found a temple of Alexander the Great. And we found also a statue of Isis. And we found many tunnels under the ground, going in this tunnel sometimes for 200 feet. And this is a tunnel that I thought that the entrance of the tomb of Cleopatra should be there. Going inside, I couldn't really go because the tunnel was very narrow. They brought me a machine with a basket like this, and they sent me down for 20 meters, and we did not find the entrance in this area. But we found a statue of a king, a headless statue. We found also a head of Cleopatra, and we found also a statuette of Aphrodite, and we found coins that has the name and the face of Queen Cleopatra. And we found this mask that has a cleft on the chin. And my assistant asked me, said, do you think that this mask belonged to Mark Antony? I said, no, it belongs to Richard Burton. Now, we found the main entrance of the temple with a statue of Isis, and we found this important stela recently. It's made by Ptolemy number 5, who made Rosetta Stone when he was 5 years old. 15 years later, he made this stone to be dedicated to Isis and the priestess in the temple. We had the Russian radar. The Russian radar showed something inside and something outside near this lighthouse. And we found, for 2 days ago, an entrance of a tomb that we did not open yet. And we hope that this could lead us to something important in this temple. I believe this work, if it happened, it will be the most important thing. Before I will talk about the 4 countries, let me make some fun for you this afternoon, then you can see. This is a visit of President Obama. He stayed 1 hour and a half with me inside this tomb. When he turned it to the other side, he saw this. And he said, I look like this. And I told him, Mr. President, it's true, you look like this. And I gave him my hat, and we had fun. And this is Michael Bay and Megan Fox. They were doing Transformer movie. And this is Greg Norman and Chris Evert. And the reason that I met them, because Matt Lauer, who's a friend of mine, told me to meet them. And they want to get married in front of the Sphinx. After this photograph, I told Chris, the Sphinx has a curse, you'll get divorced 3 months from now. She said, no, I'm in love with Greg Norman. 3 months later, she got divorced. And now, this is the last visit of Messi. We had some misunderstanding. I went to see him with a broken leg, and someone translated a word in Arabic. I had to say, I'm sorry, and I published my apologize to Messi everywhere. But Will Smith was in Egypt about a few weeks ago, and he was a friend of mine. I met him in 2006 when I was chosen by Time magazine, and he promised that he will visit Egypt. He came with a part of his family, and that is a cartoon just made in Egypt after the visit of Messi and Will Smith. And we hope that tourists come back to Egypt because Egypt is safe. Now I'm going to tell you what terrorists can make to destroy antiquities and what happened in Egypt. In 2011, we had the so-called this revolution. But people, this is how I saw this building in front of the Cairo Museum, how it was really going to be destructed because of this fire beside the museum. And I heard on the 28th of January 2011 how 1,000 people entered inside Cairo Museum, looting. When I entered inside the museum, the army commanders came, but actually I saw this mummy. I thought that the looters entered inside the mummy room. But the director of the museum entered and he saw the mummy room was safe because it was completely locked. Now, the museum, when they entered, they were looking for gold. And they were looking also for something called the red mercury. The red mercury, it's a legend. It's something that doesn't exist at all. Many Egyptians believe in the throat of the mummy, there is a liquid called red mercury. They say if you take this liquid, you will be able to be rich and you will control the devils. That's really how the museum was saved. They entered in this bookstore and they went in the stairs up to the museum. They broke these glasses and they went down and they hit glasses. And she saw the blood still exists on the showcases. And we collected all these artifacts. Can you believe we found out that we were missing only 54 objects of 1,000 people entering inside the museum because of they're looking for gold and red mercury only. Look at the looters. I asked them, why did you enter the museum? They were faceless. They could not really say anything. They opened coffins, then they can look for mummies. And look at this statue, how they broke it to pieces like this. But were able to restore the pieces back. And a rumor happened that the golden mask was stolen. I had to make a press conference, announce that the golden mask is safe. This is the last day of the army commanders protecting the museum, and all of them are very young, 25 years old. I took this photograph with them. The price that I'm paying now is to attend the wedding of everyone. And wedding in Cairo start at 12 midnight. And I go to bed at 11, and you can know how much I suffer of doing that. Look what happened also. People were building houses everywhere. And this is a map showing Egypt in 2010 and Egypt in 2011, a satellite map. People were really doing all this dig everywhere to search for antiquities. You know, we were under the Muslim Brothers for a year. We thought they would be good for us, but they were not. They were really bad for everyone. And this is why we had this people, 33 millions, going all over the country asking for them to move. The army had no choice to have blood in the streets or to save the Egyptians. The army did save the Egyptians. And we did have an election after 1 year. They did have the head of the Supreme Court who ruled Egypt for 1 year. And after that, we had an election to choose the president that we have now who saved Egypt from those people. This is some of the graffiti that I collected from Tahrir Square. But look what the Muslim Brothers did after they left the office. This is a small museum in Menia. Beautiful small museum. Look what they did. They destructed 1,050 objects completely. And even if they can't take a coffin like this, they smash it on the ground. They burned two old churches in Middle Egypt. And they did burn also, actually, the Islamic Museum. They destructed the first part of the Islamic Museum. Look what happened of the monuments today. If we think about Iraq, and you see this, the palace of Ashur Nasser Bal in Namrud, look what they do. Is they are ignorant. They don't understand the value of these monuments. This person comes with an axe to destroy the monuments, to see how this is against Islam, in his opinion. And they go to take these statues out. For example, look at these statues. Bring with electrical something to destruct the face of the statue. Again, you can see this museum in the Mosul, how they are taking all the statues down. They destruct the statues that they cannot take it out. Because the small ones, they go and they sell, and they buy guns to kill the people there. But this type of monuments, this is also a mosque of Salah ad-Din. Look how they destroyed the mosque completely. Again, this is actually in Samarra, is a place for the soldiers, and it's really beautifully done. And look how it was destructed here. And we come to Syria, which we know only actually about Iraq and Syria. And I will tell you about what happened in Yemen and Libya. In Syria, actually, major important destruction has happened. We know only about Palmyra. But you can see this is the Roman theater, which was completely destructed. And this, again, it's a citadel in Halab. And look what happened to the citadel. It was damaged maybe by war in this area. And again, this is the northern wall of the citadel. And this is, again, Palmyra, which was, we know about this Palmyra in Tadmur. Beautiful site. And look, the site is in ruin now completely. And this is how they use dynamite, and look at how it looks. And now what happened to the destruction of the temple. And again, this is a Roman theater. They changed it. They made it to kill people. They made it really here to make it to hang people inside that theater. And this is the famous Khalid al-Assad. I met his daughter in Italy last year. They were doing a conference in tourism and archaeology, and I was really happy to see how his daughter was really honored. And I hope that UNESCO and the Arab League can do the same, because this man could be a symbol of all of us as an archaeologist. How can we defend these monuments, and how can we restore it? And look at Zenobia, the queen. She's crying because of what she saw happened in Syria. Many people look at, this is the Tadmur Museum, and this is, look what happened to the museum. Again, destructing all the monuments. They take it out and then they sell it, or they destroy it. This is churches, destructing all the churches there. Look how this site before the church, and this is the Amawi mosque in Halab. Look how it looks like now. Again, really, it's a destruction of this mosque completely. And this is Dar al-Ifta, and also in Halab, before and after. Many people knows about Iraq and Syria, but you don't really know what happened in Yemen and what happened in Libya. What happened in Yemen, you know, Yemen, the city is a part of the World Heritage City. And the house really beautiful. Look how war in this town shows the house before and what happened to the house by. And this is a destruction of the whole city. And this young boy, as if he's crying of what happened to his city. Again, this is the citadel of Rada, how it looks like. Libya, I met the Minister of Culture, who came to tell me that the whole world doesn't know what's happening in Libya, because there is no one really can go to Libya and take photographs and see the destruction in the site. But this is a part of this beautiful site in Libya, and also the mosques, the Ottoman mosques, how it was destroyed. And this is an Ottoman mosque again. Look how all the architecture and the components are completely destroyed. I really think that the only way for us to protect these monuments is to be more active than talking, because we talk too much in the whole world, and nothing really ever happened. I was talking to the Minister of Antiquities in Egypt, and I said that we should have the UNESCO representative and Sally, and also the president of the Arab League, and we should find a way. First of all, we need to have a database. We need to know the objects that they have in museums now to record it. Then if anything is stolen, we can return it back. Because if you go to any Christie Hall or anything like that, they sell many monuments. But you can't really have the right, because you don't have this object is registered by database. The second important thing that archaeologists should really know, how to teach the archaeologists in the 4 countries how they can hide monuments. We do learn how we hide monuments in the site by opening a big hole and hiding the monuments in it, or also in museums. But in the same time, I really do not agree that any monuments should leave the country to go to European country. All the monuments should be protected in the site, or to be sent to any Arab country to protect it there. And I think Egypt is capable in helping more in this thing. I really believe that we should start by honoring the daughter of Khalid al-Assad in a big, important festival to show to the world that we are starting this campaign. I'm a person which I didn't like to talk, but I like to do more action. And I think we will start with the help of Sally and the UNESCO, United Nations, and the Arab League, and the Antiquities in Egypt to help the 4 countries to protect the monuments, because what we see, it can show the tears of everyone, because we believe that the monuments of these countries, all this light came from the Arab areas, from Sudan, Egypt, Libya, Yemen, Syria, and Iraq. It lighted the civilization, the whole world. And this is why we believe that the monuments of the 4 countries do not belong to all of them only, but belongs to the people all over the world. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Now you know what I mean about his devotion and his knowledge and his charm, of course. So I think this is our duty to do it. Talking about Libya, a few years ago, we have a very close friend from Libya who was also ambassador here at the UN, Dr. Ali Trekian, who was also the president of the General Assembly, had invited myself and my husband. He and his family are close friends, and we were guests in their home. And he knows my love for archaeology. So I cannot tell you now. As I remember, I want to cry. We took us to all the sites. Libya was virgin country. The beaches are virgin. And then I went to all of the archaeological sites. And he took me there, myself and my husband again, walking. For me, I can spend days. I would not, the heat, the sun, I don't care. Because I'm just so involved. He got tired, my husband got tired, and they stood there. And I'm saying, just 5 more minutes, half an hour more. We have to go. Let me tell you, I cannot express how beautiful those archaeological sites in Libya. The history is amazing. Now, as Dr. Zahir was saying, no one is recording. No one is keeping up what's going on in Libya at all. We don't know because nobody is there. So we all have a duty to do. We all have to teach and educate. How do you find things? How do you find artifacts? And without provenance, they make them up sometimes, but they sell them with the provenance, fake or no fake. I just have to mention one more thing here, is that in last October, a Europe-wide police operation known as Operation Pandora recovered more than 3,500 stolen artifacts and cultural pieces. The operation was led by the Spanish and Cypriot police, and Europol coordinated efforts. While Interpol contributed its database of stolen artifacts, both the World Customs Organization and UNESCO also contributed their expertise. According to Europol, police arrested 75 people and investigated around 48,588 individuals. In addition to the 75 people who were arrested, Europol said that 92 new investigations had been opened as a result of the operation. Spain Interior Minister explained that the purpose of this operation was to dismantle criminal networks involved in cultural theft and exploitation, and identify potential links to other criminal activities. The operation also focused on cultural spoliation, which means the looting of cultural goods during conflict in the time of war. Then here it says about a total of 3,561 works of art and cultural items, and about half of which were archaeological objects. So there is awareness, and people are coming back and forth, and they're still stealing. But I think now, with everybody more aware, and we should be all more aware, we should be all ambassadors to go out and find pieces and report them. Don't sit idle. Just if you see something, ask question. Where is this from? Where did you get this? Where is the provenance on that? And I think this is one way for average people like all of us to start somewhere, to start. All I have to do is that I have been with my children in Iraq. We lived there with my husband's job. My husband has been with the United Nations over 30-some years. And we've gone to digs. We were there on sites. We went to digs, and I dragged my children with their sneakers and shorts in the sun and all of that. And they were not really interested until they found a soldier who was buried there with a bag of money and his spear. This is 2,000 years old. And they said, Mom, the money is still there.
They were interested in the money.
Yes. But you see, when you tell them the boys and wars and so on, I have been on many sites, and I remember the ministry allowed me to dig one day, and I was not prepared. My hands were blistered this big, but I didn't care because I was so excited, and I did find something. Of course, it is for Iraq and the Iraqi government. Iraq was a land that everywhere you walk, there is something. Everywhere. And when it rained in the mountains and around the areas where we went to Mosul area, there is beads. You can find the beads from after the rain. It washes out. And there is all these little pieces there. And I have a privilege, again, to meet many archaeology professors and people who were there in several countries from different universities. And I cannot tell you how excited I would be when they come to my house and show their finding before they take it to the universities or show it to the world. And my two boys were working there cleaning the art objects that they found. They clean it with the little brushes and so on, and they mark it and so on. It is a love of mine. Of course, it is. I cannot say anything about Zahi. I'm nowhere near there. But we need all of you. We really do. And this is a big beginning, a new beginning. UNESCO has been doing a great job, of course, with the Pope now in the Vatican. I have great hope. I really do. I have a great hope in all of us trying to recover and make sure we should be proud of what we have in the background and so on. And it keeps us, on our feet, right? We are little people. All these people, all the generation that came before us. Think about that. Then we can stop the wars. Now I will have a few minutes, if you allow me, to give my thanks to, of course, Dr. Zahi Hawass with a little gift from me and, of course, for Ambassador Auza. If you can help me with that, I would like to give you a little something to honor you. Ambassador Auza.
Should I stand?
If you wish. Take a better picture. This is for you, for your dedication and your work with us and for preservation of the subject that we're talking about. So thank you. Okay. And now to our famous, amazing, flamboyant. This is for you, my friend. All your work. Now let's.
Thank you.
I would like now to say a few words of thanks for the countries that are here with us and that came. Of course, the Holy See, Egyptian ambassador and his lovely wife, who's a friend of mine, and I'm honored to say that, Faika, to the ambassador of Tajikistan, to the mission of Vietnam, to the mission of Italy, to the mission of Venezuela, to the mission of, let me see who else, Cyprus, to the mission of Germany, to the mission of Syria, to the mission of Somalia, to the mission, of course, of Nigeria. We have some people here. To the mission of Iran, to who else I did not mention, forgive me, but I'm very proud to have you here, and I'm honored to have Dr. Zahi with us today, and it is always a privilege to be with you, my friend, and so hopefully we will all do something together. Thank you again. Do you want to say a few words? Questions? No. Thank you.
And on behalf of the On behalf of everybody in here, I would like to thank Sally herself for what she has done. She has done a marvelous job. Thank you.